You all know how we have that one thing that, like, nobody else seems to like, yet regardless of how bad it may be, we just can't help loving it? Now, it may not be okay to just simply ignore all the bad and focus on just the good and loving it, but if you openly acknowledge and accept the bad with the good, is it then alright to accept it? Oh, you think so too, huh? That's a relief. Well, since we're on the topic, how about we talk about Final Fantasy 13?
No, God!
What? Come on now, I didn't even get to say anything.
No, God, please, no!
But it's my favorite.
No!
Please just.
No!
Alright, you win. Yeesh. One day they will accept you as I have. But today's not that day. No, today we'll be looking more at the Master of Masters' plans and how the tragic fate of Daybreak Town may not be all that tragic and may possibly paint the Master of Masters in a positive light again. Without further ado, everyone, intro time. Okay, so the actual events that have taken place are pretty tragic. There's no denying that. However, it is what comes after that makes it all worth it? Maybe? At least the master thinks so? Alright, hear me out a bit here. As many of you may know, when it comes to potential hints and clues regarding the next saga, Kingdom Hearts Union Cross is by and large a goldmine. Who Subject X could possibly be, who these mysterious masked figures are at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, and what exactly is this Quadratum Place that Sora has awakened in the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer. If you haven't consumed the lore here, you most likely are completely lost in what the is going on now. Hell, even those of us that have consumed this lore are still pretty lost. That's why the majority of my theory videos are looking into and trying to dissect this specific content. However, today we're going to take a bit more of a dive into this last statement here, and that is, what is this Quadratum Place? Well, simply put, it's a place of fiction. A place where neither light nor darkness may prevail. This is nothing new. We've danced this dance quite a few times by now. But what if I told you there may be more than meets the eye? During Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, we see the all too famous and built up climactic Keyblade War finally taking place before our very eyes, rather than just being stories passed down by characters throughout the series. In fact, we were actually a chess piece on the board, getting an eyewitness account of all the things going down firsthand. After being every foreteller's plaything, you miraculously survived to see the end of the war. Just barely clinging on to life for just a bit longer, you are found by your friends Ephemer and Skuld. They take you along with them and the other Dandelions who survived the war into the new world that Master Ava had instructed them to flee to. However, as we would come to realize, this new world that these young doves were under the impression of fleeing to would end up inevitably being a cage, fleeing not to another world outside, but into the data world version of Daybreak Town. Now, there is a lot to unpack here, so much so that I dedicated whole videos to this specific topic. And even then, I couldn't cover every tiny specific detail, otherwise it'd be around an hour long. That's just what we have to accept with Kingdom Hearts lore. So for the time being, I'll make sure to tag somewhere on the screen these specific videos in case you wanted a little bit more in-depth detail about exactly what I'm going on about here. Of course, it's completely optional. You don't need to watch those to understand what I'm talking about in this video. It's more of just a convenience thing. Moving on though, through a series of events, the Union leaders would soon come to realize the truth surrounding the situation that they have been put in. Major clues being A, that they could still travel to all the surrounding worlds that have supposedly been separated after the war, and B, literal random glitching figures of actual people within the world, such as we see with Strelitzia and Master Ava. With these random phenomena, Brain was able to conclude that the only way for this to possibly make any sense would be if they were in the data world. The only way for there to be literal glitches would have to be because there is data involved. Data copies of all the people who lived in the original Daybreak Town. This would also explain how we are able to travel to the different worlds outside even after the Keyblade War. If there is backup data of not only the civilians of Daybreak Town, But Daybreak Town itself, a world, there must be backup data versions of all the other worlds as well. A sort of failsafe in case things didn't necessarily go according to plan following the war. The real worlds on the outside have and are indeed separated. We've just been traveling to the data versions of those worlds that are connected to the data version of the Daybreak Town that we are in. Without knowing this for a fact, it is practically inconceivable to tell that you are in data. It is here that there are also backups of all the people from the real world as well. It's just locked up temporarily. Otherwise, there would be doubles of everyone walking around, which obviously would complicate things. When the true darknesses begin to make their move, Maleficent would clash with Laurium and then proceed to take a lifeboat to return to the real world, and then take a lifeboat from there to return to the time of when she came from the future. Unfortunately for those left behind, the activation of the first lifeboat in the data world would initiate a sort of shutdown process, beginning the inevitable destruction of the data world and closing it off permanently from the outside world. The only way to escape, again, would be through the already limited amount of lifeboats which Maleficent had already taken one of. Now faced with the dilemma of impending doom among them, as well as being one lifeboat short, Brain would volunteer to stay behind, allowing the other Union leaders to escape into the real world and carry on the light. So in the aftermath of Daybreak Town, we know that Laurium, Elrena, Ventus, Skuld, and Ephemer all escape through the escape pods. Brain escapes through whatever means Luciu had when he hijacked his body, and our player character as well as Strelitzia have unfortunately met their untimely demise. So that takes care of all the survivors of the Keyblade War that we have been following up until this point, but what about all the survivors we haven't been following? What exactly do I mean by that? Well, obviously, I'm talking about the countless other Keyblade wielders that have been transported along with all of you in the first place, the Dandelions. Or did we all kinda just forget that they existed? That's right, we know what happened to our main cast of characters, but what happened to those left behind? Those who were left to be closed off inside the Data Daybreak Town while the others escaped. Well, let's take a look at the conversation between Luciu and Brain right before the destruction of the real Daybreak Town for a second. While Luciu is baffled by Brain's selfless act of staying behind with no means or plans to escape, he tries to gain some insight as to what Brain's plan actually is.
"'Cause I'm a gremlin! Rah!"
Brain informs him that he has no plan to escape, instead remaining and living out his life here in Daybreak Town with the intentions to eventually awaken the sleeping Dandelions trapped inside the data world. Live out here. Okay. Anyways, Luciu then goes on to ask what Brain meant by awakening the other Dandelions, to which he says that Master Ava taught them that when a world falls to darkness, it is put to sleep until it is awakened again. We've personally seen this in action, all the way back in the ending of Kingdom Hearts 1 when Sora, Donald, and Goofy defeated Ansem and the worlds are restored back to once they had been consumed, people and all. Luciu enlightens Brain that that's good and all, but the data world was created specifically to trap the darkness. Again, way too much to go into all in one video, so more on this here. But the point being that once it was consumed by darkness, there was no way of getting it back. There is no awakening the Dandelions, because there will be no world or Dandelions to awaken. It is in this moment that our question from earlier regarding what happened to the other Dandelions may have been answered. If they weren't put to sleep, and as Luciu's statement of the Data Daybreak Town being made specifically to trap the darkness, that the Dandelions and all the data is unrecoverable, what could that possibly mean? What's one way that some data becomes unrecoverable? It may have happened to you all at one point or another in your life, and that is the data has become corrupted. Now, of course, it's hard to apply real-world logic to anything Nomura dips his pen into. Honestly, it's hard to apply Nomura logic to Nomura logic. Regardless, as with all of my theories, take it with a grain of salt and humor me a bit here. When data is corrupted, it can become unusable, inaccurate, unreadable, or in some way inaccessible to a user due to unwanted change to a file during storage, transmission, or processing. Basically, if you're in the process of using the data and something within it changes from the original version while it's active, you get corrupted data. So what happens when the data world that the Dandelions are trapped in gets corrupted? Well, the only thing that can happen, they flatline, disappear. or for lack of a better word, they are dead. If you are all currently existing in a world and all of a sudden that world literally gets destroyed, it's safe to assume that everything within the world at the time of its undoing is destroyed as well. As we've discussed before, the whole plan around the data world, from it being created all the way through to the intentions of trapping the darkness, was all by the Master of Masters' hands. But what reason would he have to willingly sacrifice all of the brightest lights that he specifically tasked a foreteller with saving?
You really think you can change the future? Then, what do you want us to do? We have to focus on what comes after.
And what are the Master's plans moving forward after the destruction of Daybreak Town? Well, none other than Quadratum. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The people of Quadratum very well may indeed be the Keyblade wielders of the past, specifically the Dandelions. In the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer, when Sora awakens, Strelitzia greets him and begins explaining everything that is going on. Getting him up to speed, she explains that this is the world of Quadratum, a world inhabited by people. However, to us of the Kingdom Hearts realm, this place is as an afterlife for us, a place where those whose lives have ended end up. This explains why the Master was so willing to sacrifice the Union leaders as well as the Dandelions by trapping them with the darkness in the data world, moving the Fallen to Quadratum and making Quadratum the new Daybreak Town, a neutral, ever-expansive world, much like the original, but minus the whole light and darkness aspect, out of darkness's reach. And if these people are the fallen Dandelions, this would also explain why in the middle of humbling us, Yozora stops to literally take our Keyblade and proceed to beat us with it as if it was his own. If Yozora did not have a heart that the Keyblade had chosen, he would not have been able to take, let alone wield, Sora's Keyblade during the fight. It would have instantly returned to Sora. We've seen this back in Kingdom Hearts 1 when Leon picked up his blade for only a second and it immediately went back to Sora. But later in the game, when Riku held it, it didn't return to him. He gave it back. Now, of course, this could be because this was supposed to be Riku's Keyblade. But again, Riku was a Keyblade wielder at this time, even if he didn't remember. In 358 and 2 days, when Riku picks up Xion's Keyblade, it doesn't teleport back to her. And even recently in Kingdom Hearts 3, when Sora picks up the Master Defender and proceeds to wield it as if it's his own.
I had a little help.
And remember this scene in Kingdom Hearts 3 when Xemnas explains to these specific people the reason that he had chosen numbers 9 through 12?
Ugh, Xemnas.
So, what about you? How do you suppose I chose numbers 9 through 12?
Because our hearts are uber powerful.
Wrong. You have been brought together for another purpose.
What? So that we can rot away on the bottom rung?
You four are going to reveal your greatest secret. The ancient Keyblade legacy that slumbers within you.
Because they will awaken the ancient Keyblade legacy inside them. What are Larxene and Marluxia? Lauriam and Alrena, ancient Keyblade wielders from Daybreak Town. Assuming that this is what Xemnas was referring to here, it's safe to say that he's implying that the others are Keyblade wielders from the past as well. Mix in the fact that it's basically all but confirmed that Luxord is from the world of Quadratum, right next to our man Yozora, it all begins to make sense.
Impressive, is it not?
The only outlier being Demyx, but there is a whole slew of theories about him in and of himself, but most of them seem to aim in the direction that he is from Quadratum in some way, shape, or form as well. And of course, who have we found out to be giving Xehanort this miscellaneous information about the past? The Master of Masters, the one who sees all, and the one who overlooked Daybreak Town. Of course he would know of the people inside. Daybreak Town was a lost cause, and as the Master has said, you can't stop the inevitable from happening. But knowing the events to come does allow you to at the very least prepare and plan out the steps to take afterwards. And to that end, what really is a civilization? The plot of land and the buildings that reside in it? Or the people? The Master truly has everyone's best interests in mind when he is acting, even though his methods at points tend to be rather extreme. He's only playing with the hand that he was dealt. At least that's what I keep telling myself whenever I try to play devil's advocate defending this insane piece of fashionware. But I digress. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for another Kingdom Hearts theory video. In the next one, I will be discussing a significantly long overdue process of elimination video when it comes to who Subject X may very well be. Numerous people have stepped into the ring with their thoughts on this subject, and I think it's high time I do the same. But until then, I hope you all have a fantastic day. It's been Vel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.